America's on the move, but not in the way we used to think. Across the country, major cities that were once magnets for opportunity, jobs, and vibrant lifestyles are now losing residents every single month. Rising housing costs, growing crime, higher taxes, and aging infrastructure have made city living harder than ever. The dream of urban opportunity is being replaced by a search for affordability, safety, and stability. Millions of Americans are packing up and leaving, seeking a better life in smaller towns and emerging metros that promise more space and less stress. These are the 10 cities losing residents at the fastest pace in 2025, and what their decline reveals about the changing face of America's urban future. Subscribe to Discover the Nation and witness the great American reshuffle unfold, one city at a time.
Number 10. Portland, Oregon. Once hailed as the model of progressive urban living, Portland has become a cautionary example of what happens when affordability, governance, and public confidence begin to crumble at the same time. In 2025, the city that once defined the creative energy of the Pacific Northwest is losing residents faster than at any other point in its modern history. According to recent census migration data, outbound moves from the Portland metro have risen more than 17% year over year. It is a stunning reversal for a city that only a decade ago drew thousands of newcomers with its walkable neighborhoods, environmental focus, and thriving art scene. Today, the reality feels very different. Downtown streets tell a story of decline, with boarded storefronts where lively local businesses once stood and tent encampments stretching for blocks. The homelessness crisis has reached emergency levels, and even city officials admit that recovery is years away. Families who once celebrated Portland's independent spirit are now packing up for Bend, Boise, or Salt Lake City, searching for safety, stability, and lower living costs. Housing remains stubbornly expensive. The median home price still hovers around $500,000 despite falling demand and higher vacancies in downtown condos. Property taxes are climbing, utilities are more expensive, and insurance premiums continue to rise as crime and vandalism affect local rates. For many middle-class residents, the math of staying simply no longer adds up. Neighborhoods that once captured Portland's charm, such as Laurelhurst, Sellwood, and Alberta Arts, are facing identity shifts. Schools are merging, restaurants are closing earlier, and community events that once drew crowds now struggle to stay alive. The natural beauty remains untouched, from the Columbia River Gorge to Forest Park, but the civic spirit that once united the city feels dimmer. Still, Portland is not without hope. A core of artists, entrepreneurs, and activists continue to fight for renewal, determined to bring back the vibrancy that defined the city for generations. In 2025, Portland stands at a crossroads, still beautiful and still proud, yet weighed down by challenges that charm alone can no longer overcome.
Number 9. Minneapolis, Minnesota. In the heart of the Midwest, Minneapolis was once seen as the perfect balance between opportunity and quality of life. For decades, the Twin Cities stood out for steady job growth, clean neighborhoods, and a vibrant cultural scene that drew professionals from across the nation. But in 2025, that reputation is fading. The metro area faces one of the sharpest population declines in the region, with thousands leaving each month. Postal Service records show a constant flow of residents heading to southern cities like Dallas, Nashville, and Tampa, where the cost of living is lower and job growth stronger. The reasons are clear. Downtown never fully recovered after the pandemic. Many office towers remain half empty as hybrid work left the Skyway system quiet and underused. Public safety concerns, both real and perceived, have shaken community confidence. Longtime residents of neighborhoods such as Uptown and Northeast report more empty storefronts and fewer local businesses surviving. The housing market reflects the same strain. Prices have leveled off, but affordability has collapsed as mortgage rates stay high and property taxes rise. Young professionals who once bought starter homes near Lake Nokomis are now moving to cities where their salaries go further. Even healthcare and tech employees, once the foundation of Minneapolis's economy, are seeking better opportunities in warmer, cheaper states. At the same time, the cost of staying continues to rise. Heating bills have soared during long winters, and public transit improvements have slowed under budget pressure. For many families, the charm of four seasons no longer offsets the stress of higher expenses and safety concerns. Still, Minneapolis holds on to its strengths. Its lakes, parks, and universities remain among the finest in the country, and city leaders are pursuing new revitalization efforts downtown. Yet optimism feels restrained. In 2025, the Twin Cities are defined less by growth and more by adaptation, as leaders work to preserve stability in a region where more residents are quietly leaving than arriving.
Number 8. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago has always been the beating heart of the Midwest, a city built on resilience, industry, and ambition. But in 2025, that same spirit is being tested like never before. The city's population drain is accelerating, and the numbers are startling. Every single month, more than 10,000 residents are packing up and leaving Cook County behind. Once vibrant neighborhoods such as Lincoln Park, Bronzeville, and South Shore are seeing moving trucks far more often than new homebuyers. The reasons are as complex as they are familiar. Sky-high property taxes, rising crime rates, and stagnant wages have created a perfect storm of frustration. Many families who once saw Chicago as the city of opportunity now view it as a financial trap. The cost of living keeps climbing, while public services decline. Police response times are slower, school budgets are tighter, and public transit reliability has plummeted. Even the suburbs that once promised refuge are no longer safe havens. Towns across DuPage and Will County are facing soaring taxes of their own, pushing more families to leave Illinois altogether. According to the latest U.S. Census Bureau data, outbound migration from Illinois ranks among the highest in the nation. The destinations tell their own story. Former Chicagoans are flocking to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and the Carolinas, states where they feel their paychecks stretch further, their homes are safer, and their futures are more predictable. Yet despite the decline, Chicago still radiates cultural brilliance. Its skyline remains one of the most recognizable in the world, its food scene unmatched, and its artistic pulse still strong. The problem lies not in its identity, but in its sustainability. The gap between beauty and livability has never been wider. For many, Chicago will always be home, but in 2025, love for the city is no longer enough. The win that once symbolized strength now carries a quieter truth. Chicago remains grand, historic, and full of pride, but its people are voting with their feet, chasing a version of stability the city can no longer guarantee.
Number 7. Seattle, Washington. Seattle was once the crown jewel of America's tech revolution, a city that rose from mist and innovation to define a new era of opportunity. But in 2025, that golden glow has dimmed. The city's population is shrinking for the first time in decades, and the data tells a story of growing frustration and fatigue. Major employers like Microsoft and Amazon have downsized, eliminating thousands of jobs that once sustained the region's thriving economy. The office towers that used to hum with energy now stand quiet, their lobbies half empty and their cafes shuttered. The tech layoffs are only part of the problem. Seattle's cost of living has soared to levels that even its well-paid workforce struggles to sustain. Grocery prices, energy bills, and car insurance have risen steeply. Families that once considered neighborhoods like Ballard, Green Lake, or Capitol Hill ideal places to settle are now leaving the city behind, looking for balance in smaller, more affordable metros, such as Boise, Spokane, or even Minneapolis. Downtown Seattle, once defined by creativity and commerce, now struggles with an identity crisis. Homelessness has become a humanitarian emergency and a political flashpoint, dividing city leadership on how to respond. Crime concerns and visible urban decay have driven both businesses and residents to question the city's long-term direction. Apartment vacancies are rising, and developers are pausing projects as demand wanes. Yet for all its challenges, Seattle remains a place of breathtaking natural beauty and technological influence. The Olympic Mountains still frame its skyline, and its global reach in innovation, medicine, and sustainability continues to shape the modern economy. But the optimism that once defined the Emerald City feels strained. The rain is not what drives people away. It is the rising cost of staying. In 2025, Seattle stands as a city at a crossroads, still creative, still visionary, but burdened by the consequences of its own success. For thousands of families, the dream that once felt limitless has become too heavy to carry.
Number 6. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia has always carried the weight of history. The birthplace of American independence, the city of brotherly love, a place that stood for resilience and reinvention. But in 2025, that proud legacy faces a quiet crisis. The city is losing residents at a slow but steady pace, and the signs are impossible to ignore. Outbound migration from the Philadelphia metro has risen more than 12% compared with last year, marking the 5th straight year of population decline. Families once rooted in neighborhoods like Fishtown, Roxborough, and Chestnut Hill are now heading to nearby New Jersey, Delaware, and even South Carolina, drawn by lower taxes, newer infrastructure, and safer streets. Philadelphia's challenges are layered and deeply rooted. Wages have lagged far behind inflation, leaving the middle class squeezed by rising rent, utilities, and property costs. The city's infrastructure, much of it built decades ago, is showing its age. SEPTA, the regional transit system, continues to face staffing shortages, delays, and declining ridership, while potholes and water main breaks have become part of daily life. Public safety concerns have further accelerated the exodus. Parts of North and West Philadelphia continue to struggle with violent crime and underfunded policing, driving families to seek stability in the suburbs. Meanwhile, small businesses downtown are battling a post-pandemic slump, with office attendance still below pre-2020 levels. Despite the challenges, Philadelphia still holds immense cultural power. Its architecture, history, and food scene remain among the most celebrated in the country. Yet the younger generation is growing restless. Many are questioning whether loyalty to the city outweighs the constant strain of high taxes and limited opportunities. The question now is not whether Philadelphia can survive, but whether it can adapt. City leaders are betting on innovation districts and housing reforms to lure residents back. But as of 2025, the numbers tell a sobering story. Philadelphia is still proud, still passionate, but increasingly defined by the people who have already left.
Number 5. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles, once the symbol of American ambition and reinvention, is now experiencing a mass departure that has become impossible to ignore. Every month, thousands of Angelenos are packing their lives into moving trucks and heading east, leaving behind the glittering skyline that once promised endless possibility. The reasons vary, but the result is the same: sky-high rent, traffic congestion, insurance premiums, wildfire fears, and rising crime have all combined to make life in Los Angeles unaffordable and unsustainable for many. According to the latest Census Bureau migration data, California as a whole has seen some of the nation's highest outbound rates, and Los Angeles sits at the center of that trend. For decades, Los Angeles represented the dream. From the beaches of Venice to the hills of Pasadena, the city offered sunshine, opportunity, and fame. But in 2025, that dream feels increasingly distant for the middle class. A family earning the area's median income of around $75,000 now faces average rents exceeding $3,000 a month. Gas prices hover among the nation's highest, and homeowners are burdened with earthquake and fire insurance premiums that have doubled in recent years. Even the entertainment industry that built the city's global identity is changing. Streaming cutbacks, studio layoffs, and remote production hubs in other states have left Hollywood quieter than ever. Once bustling sets now sit idle, and creative professionals are leaving for Atlanta, Austin, and even Albuquerque, where tax incentives and affordability offer a fresh start. Los Angeles still dazzles on the surface. The sunsets remain golden, the culture diverse, and the sense of possibility alive. But beneath that beauty lies fatigue. Residents are tired of fighting a system that feels built for the wealthy few. The city's leaders promise reforms, but confidence is fading faster than the coastal light. In 2025, Los Angeles remains a place of dreams, but more and more of those dreams are being pursued elsewhere. Behind the glamour, a quiet migration has begun, one moving van at a time.
Number 4, New York City. New York City has always been the beating heart of America. The city that never sleeps, the place where ambition defines the skyline. But in 2025, the energy feels different. For the first time in decades, New York is shrinking, and even lifelong residents are stunned by the pace of its decline. Manhattan's gleaming condos sit dark at night. Brooklyn brownstones are lingering on the market, and entire blocks of rental apartments are quietly emptying out. The numbers are hard to ignore. Outbound migration from New York State has reached record highs, with more than 100,000 residents leaving each year. The reasons are as predictable as they are painful. High taxes continue to drain both residents and small businesses. The city's once iconic subway system is aging faster than it can be repaired, plagued by delays and chronic maintenance problems. Violent incidents, though not universal, have made commuters uneasy, while the price of everything from groceries to childcare has climbed beyond reach for the average family. Retirees are heading south, drawn to the lower costs of Florida and the Carolinas. Young professionals are choosing new beginnings in Texas, Colorado, or the Pacific Northwest, where salaries stretch further and rent no longer consumes half a paycheck. Even major employers are following the trend. Financial firms, media houses, and tech startups are expanding operations outside the city, attracted by lower taxes and fewer regulatory hurdles. Yet, despite all this, New York's identity endures. The skyline still commands awe, Central Park still hums with life, and the spirit of resilience remains alive in the people who stay. Street performers still fill the air with music, and corner coffee shops still spark conversations that lead to dreams. But the pulse is softer now. The ambition that once roared through the streets has quieted into reflection. In 2025, New York City remains iconic, but its greatest challenge is no longer growth. It is retention. The city that once drew the world is now struggling to keep its own.
Number 3. San Francisco, California. San Francisco was once the crown jewel of innovation, the birthplace of modern technology, and the beating heart of Silicon Valley's rise. But in 2025, the Golden Gate feels less like a symbol of progress and more like a reminder of what the city used to be. The population is falling month after month, and what was once the most expensive housing market in America now struggles to keep its homes and businesses occupied. In neighborhoods like Soma, the Tenderloin, and Civic Center, streets that were once crowded with workers and entrepreneurs now tell a quieter story. Storefronts have shuttered, office towers stand half-empty, and sidewalks reveal the strain of economic decline and social crisis. Tech layoffs have rippled through every corner of the city, leaving thousands of skilled professionals without direction. Companies that once defined the Bay Area's wealth are moving operations to Texas, Utah, and even Mexico, chasing lower costs and simpler regulations. The affordability crisis has reached a breaking point. The average rent remains above $3,000 a month, while property taxes and insurance costs have soared. Basic services have become unpredictable, and families who have lived in the city for generations are being forced to leave. Redfin data shows that the number of active listings is at a 10-year high, while housing demand has fallen to record lows. Homelessness continues to dominate the political conversation. City officials promise reform, but visible encampments and safety concerns persist across downtown and tourist areas. The contrast between immense wealth and visible poverty has become impossible to ignore, and it weighs heavily on the city's identity. Still, San Francisco retains a glimmer of what made it great. The fog rolling over the hills, the sound of the bay, and the artistic energy of its residents all speak to a city worth saving. But in 2025, the challenge is existential. San Francisco must rediscover balance between innovation and livability before the soul of the city slips away for good.
Number 2. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit has always been a city that fights back. From the assembly lines that built America's cars to the soul music that defined its heart, resilience is woven into its DNA. But in 2025, that fighting spirit is being tested again. The comeback that once seemed unstoppable has stalled, and a new wave of residents is quietly packing up and leaving. Outmigration from Detroit is up more than 20% month over month, with working-class families and retirees leading the exodus. The reasons are painfully familiar. Job losses in manufacturing have returned as automation expands and several automotive plants cut back production. Insurance premiums have climbed higher than almost anywhere in the country, driven by rising theft rates and property damage claims. Public safety remains a growing concern, with crime in parts of West Detroit and the East Side driving families to safer suburbs or other states entirely. Vacancies are spreading across neighborhoods once filled with promise. In Midtown, restaurants that thrived during the city's revival are closing their doors. Storefronts are empty again. Even downtown, once a symbol of Detroit's rebirth, is quieter than before as office attendance declines and investment slows. Younger residents, the lifeblood of any city's recovery, are heading to the Sun Belt in record numbers. Cities like Dallas, Phoenix, and Charlotte are attracting Detroiters with the promise of better wages, lower costs, and year-round sunshine. The energy that once fueled hope is now leaving with them. Still, Detroit is not defeated. The city's creative class continues to innovate in pockets of renewal, from Corktown to Eastern Market. Local leaders are investing in small business grants, tech hubs, and urban farming initiatives to restore growth. But the reality remains sobering. For every new arrival, 2 more are leaving. In 2025, Detroit stands at another crossroads. Its legacy of resilience endures, but its population tells a harder truth. The city's fight for its future continues, even as more of its people search for one somewhere else.
Number 1. Boston, Massachusetts. For generations, Boston has stood as one of America's most historic and resilient cities, a place where innovation, education, and tradition have long defined its identity. But in 2025, even this powerhouse of intellect and industry is showing cracks. The city that once drew talent from across the world is now watching thousands of residents quietly leave each month in search of affordability and balance elsewhere. The numbers tell a clear story. Boston's cost of living has soared beyond reach for most working families. Median home prices now hover near $800,000, while rents have climbed to record highs. Wage growth has failed to keep pace, and even professionals in healthcare, education, and technology, once the city's strongest sectors, are feeling the strain. The shift toward hybrid and remote work has reshaped Boston's landscape. Office towers in the financial district sit partly vacant, while former downtown commuters now work from New Hampshire, Maine, or entirely new states like North Carolina and Texas. The once busy MBTA lines see fewer riders, and small businesses that thrived on weekday crowds are struggling to survive. In neighborhoods like Back Bay, Cambridge, and Somerville, young professionals who once dreamed of living near world-class universities are rethinking their plans. Property taxes, parking fees, and utility costs have made urban life punishingly expensive. Families are increasingly heading to southern metros such as Raleigh, Nashville, and Tampa, where their income stretches further and home ownership feels attainable. Even Boston's suburbs are showing signs of strain. Towns like Quincy and Brookline, long viewed as stable refuges from the city's intensity, are seeing softening demand as buyers look farther afield for value. Meanwhile, infrastructure challenges, from congested roads to aging transit systems, add to daily frustration. Yet Boston's legacy remains powerful. Its universities, hospitals, and cultural institutions still attract some of the brightest minds in the country. But the city's future depends on whether it can solve the affordability crisis driving people away. In 2025, Boston still stands proud, historic, educated, and ambitious. But beneath its brick facades and innovation hubs lies a sobering truth. Even America's most intellectual city is struggling to keep its people from seeking opportunity somewhere else.
These aren't just population stats. They're real cities with real people facing hard choices in the face of rising costs, policy shifts, and changing lifestyles. The American migration isn't random, it's a signal. Subscribe to Discover the Nation to track every shift, every trend, and every city on the move. Because this story isn't over, it's just getting started.